There's a word in Korean, 인연. It means providence or fate.
Do you believe in that?
That's just something Koreans say to seduce someone.
Past Lives is a movie that I was inspired by this moment in my life that actually happened, where I found myself sitting in this bar in East Village in New York City, sitting between my childhood sweetheart, who had come to visit me from Korea, who's now a friend, and my husband that I live with in New York City. And I actually, while sitting there translating between these two men, I actually felt like beyond translating between two languages and two cultures, I also was translating between two parts of my own self. And I think that there was something about it that felt both totally contradictory and very, strange and magical and all those things. And I think that there was something about it where it inspired me to think, maybe this is a story that I can tell. Maybe this is a thing that I can make a film about. When it came to the characters, the principal characters, to find Greta and to find Theo, I actually just did a pretty traditional casting process where I received tapes and then I met them. And because this was during COVID, I actually met them over Zoom. And they walked into the Zoom room and I think I spoke to them somewhere between 2 to 3 hours, both of them. And I think that at the end of each phone call, I knew that this was the right person for the role. So I think that really, and I don't know how to describe the casting process except in the most ephemeral sense, where it is always a little bit of a falling in love, where you have to fall in love with the idea of this actor playing this part. And I think just like falling in love, there's no rhyme or reason. It's just more like I could feel that the Greta was a soul match to the character, or Theo was a soul match to the character of Hae Sung. So I think in those ways, that's really the way that I found the adults. And when it came to the children, I actually did a chemistry test for children because the characters' chemistry in childhood is such a fundamental part of the whole film. Like, it's the one that endures through the 24 years that this movie spans, the childhood chemistry. And so it was really important also because the kids don't have that many lines to audition with. So I actually found the girl first, and then I actually had 3 boys who came in to do callbacks. And they did a chemistry read with a little girl actress. And in this chemistry read, I actually asked the boys to tell the actress, do a little piece of ad-lib where he is asking the little girl to stay in Korea and keep being friends with him. And the boy that I ended up casting and he did such a beautiful piece of ad-lib, and he was so emotionally connected to the asking his friend to stay in Korea that he made the little girl actress cry. So the little girl actress, she was crying, and after the boy left, she said, do I have to leave? Do I have to leave Korea? Does my character have to leave Korea? And I was like, yes, but you don't have to leave as a person, So I think it's like, so it was really that kind of a thing. And it's, again, chemistry is always something where you see it and you know it, And that boy and the girl, they just had it immediately. And because of the work that we did in the chemistry read, I knew that it would work when they're, without many words, able to convey the chemistry. And on top of that, the adults, Theo and Greta, who are playing the adult counterparts to the children, they actually looked at that chemistry read tape to explore their own chemistry and really look for doors into the grown-up characters' chemistry with each other.
나영, 왜 울어? 오늘 이 당에서 오는 거야? 내가 1등에서 화났어?
응.
야, 난 맨날 너 때문에 2등하는데. 난 안 울잖아. 처음 날 이겼는데 네가 울면 내 기분이 어떻겠냐? 노라야.
I kept Teo and Greta, who play Hae Sung and Nora, physically apart. They were, of course, rehearsing with each other, but they actually did not touch each other until we see that scene in Madison Square Park, where they see each other for the first time in person in 24 years. And I think that part of the reason why I wanted to do that is because, and I wanted to do that with them, and they wanted to do it as well, and is because, it's about a really extraordinary connection, and it's a very really extraordinary moment in our lives. But I wasn't able to give them fireworks or VFX. The best thing I could do is to point the camera at their faces, and the amazing power of that moment, which is, of course, I mean, I would talk about that scene as a resurrection scene. It's like feeling like your friend is gone and no longer there, and then to see them again, but this time as a grown-up. Last time you saw that person in person was as a boy, and now you're gonna see that person as a grown man. And the magic of that, I think that it needed something. I felt like it might be worth doing something a little bit special, so that when they hug each other for the first time, it really is the first time that these two grown man and woman are hugging each other, you know. And I think that, of course, the first take of them touching each other is not the take that's in the film, but from that first take, they're able to build on that chemistry or build on the extraordinary feeling they got in touching another person for the first time. The other thing that I did was I kept the two men in the film, Joe Magara, who plays Arthur, and Teo, apart as you know, I kept them from meeting each other until we shot the scene where the two of them as characters meet each other for the first time. And we were actually rolling when Hae Sung and Arthur meet each other, and that first take is actually in the movie. Part of the reason why that was so helpful is because the two male actors, they were able to start building expectation of what the other guy is like. I actually told Greta in her rehearsal with Teo to tell Teo about what it's been like to rehearse with John and vice versa. And of course, the men started to form some idea of what the other guy is like. But also they were able to build a chemistry with Greta that is completely separate from the other guy and the way that the other guy is building a chemistry. So when they actually faced each other in the film, and then they were starting to do scenes with each other, there was an amazing thing where these two worlds that they had built separately with Greta were clashing, which is what the movie's about.
Who do you think they are to each other?
I don't know.
Yeah, this is a hard one.
I think the white guy and the Asian girl are a couple, and the Asian guy is her brother.
Or the Asian girl and the Asian guy are a couple, and the white guy is their American friend.
You're not even talking to the white guy.
Maybe they're tourists, and the white guy is their tour guide.
Drinking at 4 a.m.
Yeah, you're right. That makes no sense.
Maybe they're all just colleagues.
I have no idea.
I think the most difficult scene in some ways was the opening scene, because I think that Greta and I, in our working together and also talking about that opening moment where Nora actually turns and looks at the camera and breaks the fourth wall. And really, invites the audience into the film and also implicates the audience into engaging with the film from the point of view of almost a detective, right? Because you're a bit of a detective for who these three people are to each other. And it was just such an important and a very difficult thing because there's no language to really even describe what it had to be. But we were talking about it a lot, and I think really finding the amazing look that we found at the end, where in the beginning of this film, where Greta is able to, as Nora, turn to the camera and gaze at us and welcome us and implicate us. I think the impossibility of it. I mean, like, there were words I used that I am like, I don't know how to describe what that look should be, except that it's a cosmic joke. And I remember Greta being like, I don't think that I can act cosmic joke, And I think in that way, and I was like, you're absolutely right. How could you? But that's what this moment is, and it's that uncertainty, or it's the impossibility of that moment. And I don't know. I think it's really to me, the opening scene is the hardest because it is trying to accomplish the impossible, which is that it has to be a million things at once and completely singular, and has to set the tone for the whole film, and also is the fundamental part of the film. It is at the heart of the film. So I'm describing like 10 impossible things that all has to exist in one look. And I think it just really speaks to how incredible Greta is, that she was able to do it, to express that uncertainty and express that sense of humor and express everything.
왠지 널 보고 여기도 오고 그러니까 좀 이상한 생각이 많아지네.
무슨 생각?
12년 전에 그때 내가 만약에 뉴욕에 왔었다면 어땠을까? 만약에 네가 한국을 떠나지 않았다면, 그렇게 떠나지 않았고 우리가 같이 자랐더라도 내가 널 찾았을까? 우리가 사귀었을까? 헤어졌을까? 부부가 됐을까? 우리는 아이들을 가졌을까? 그런 생각들.
Something that was very true is that at the time that I was writing the script, it actually was, not possible to write in another language on Final Draft. And Final Draft being the industry leading, script writing software. And there is an amazing structural barrier that you feel that you maybe shouldn't write a script that's bilingual, which mine is. And I think that in that way, I think initially it's really to overcome the feeling that maybe nobody will care about the story. Maybe this is just such a story about this very specific person, and people won't understand that it is epic in scale, or people aren't going to be interested in a story about just a girl because that's all they'll see, and they won't see that this story spans decades and continents, right? So there's a lot of fear around it, and I think that fear is the first thing that you have to overcome. That's the first dragon that gets slain, right? And then after that, I think that when it comes to making the movie itself, of course, the new dragon you're trying to slay is that it's your own first movie. So you know what you don't know, and you know what you do know, right? And I think that initially, the things that you don't know, the list is so much longer than the things that you do know. But I think that over time, the dragon that you're slaying in that situation is to accept that, yes, of course, there are things that I don't know as a first-time filmmaker who's not been on a film set, but I also do know something that nobody else knows, which is how the story should be told and who these characters are. And that's actually, at the end of the day, what I could believe in. And eventually, the list of things that I don't know start to disappear, start to shorten, and then eventually I actually know all of it. And I think that's the second dragon you slay. And then the final dragon, I think, really is the moment that I felt backstage at Sundance, where this movie had a world premiere, where I was standing in standing backstage and waiting for the movie to be shown. I was about to introduce it. And I was just, waiting. The Eccles Theater was full, and I was just standing there waiting for the movie to come out, to the world. And I think that was the moment where I had so much fear and uncertainty, because I was like, I don't know how the audience is going to receive it, because I don't know what they're going to feel. I don't know if they're going to come along on this journey. I don't know if I did everything for this movie to make sure that it is felt and understood. And then, of course, that dragon is very difficult to slay. But thankfully, I was able to slay it because the audience met it with complete warmth and such openness, which is, I feel like, all I can ask for, and so much care, and they really let it get under their skin, and then they really feel connected to it. They feel personally invested in it, the story of these characters. And I think once that happened, I just knew that the final dragon has been slain, and I'm all right,
너는 나를 왜 찾았어?
12년 전에?
응.
그게 그렇게 궁금해? 한 번 더 보고 싶었어. 잘 모르겠어. 왠지 네가 날 두고 그냥 확 가버려서 좀 열받았던 것 같아.
미안.
뭐가 미안해?
I think the only thing that I can hope for from the audience is for them to come meet the movie from where they are. And I think that, I mean that because I found that no matter where it's seen, no matter who sees it, it really is such a intimate and personal thing for individual audience members, because how a 16-year-old who's never been in love watches the movie is going to be different than the 60-year-old who has been in love many times, right? If you're single, you're recently single, you're recently in a relationship, you've been in a relationship for 30 years. I think all of that, it's like it's going to place you in such a different place to meet the movie. So it's a bit about timing. Maybe the movie is going to mean something to you right now, and then maybe 2 years later, after you had a breakup and a change of job and change of a city, maybe you're going to have a completely different response to the film. And maybe 10 years after that, you're going to have maybe you're like, now you have a family that you're taking care of, and now you're going to have a completely different reaction to it too. So I think what I hope for more than anything is for the movie to let the movie be under your skin, and to let the movie be what it is for you specifically. And there's no one thing that I expect anybody to feel, but I do think that I hope that you are going to feel something.